Welcome to this edition of the Million Dollar Mastermind podcast. This is where we pick the brains of high achievers from all walks of life and get their hard-earned, real-world insights on winning. I'm your host, Larry Weidel. You told me that your first podcast that you had over 400 episodes and then you closed that one off. What did you get from that experience? And why did you decide it was time to move on?
You know, I got practice. I think that there's a point in everyone's business where you have to perfect your voice, your message. I think in the beginning, we try to copy a lot of people. You know, ooh, I like that podcaster because they do this and they use that term. And in the beginning, we don't know who we are. So we kind of copy and experiment and try and this and that. And then after 7 years of Igniting Souls podcast, I said, you know what? I'm going to change it to the Blockchain Life podcast. And so I closed it to create a short new podcast, which was really a different focus. On that podcast, Larry, I invited experts. My other podcast was me talking.
Yeah.
This podcast was me bringing on experts. And I'll tell you what, they blew my mind. They told me all about blockchain and NFTs and metaverse. And I knew I was interviewing him. I was interviewing him so I could become an expert and write a book.
Yeah.
And then once I wrote that book, I'll tell you what, Larry, I said, you know what? I'm done with the podcast. Here's what I know. I know that really good people around me, Dan Sullivan's a mentor and now a client. I actually publish his Ambition series books for Strategic Coach. But everybody who around me is really good. They aren't afraid to kill and cut off things. And you know what the word decide means? It's a Latin word. It's the same suffix: decide, suicide, genocide, pesticide, insecticide.
Yeah.
The word CIDE means to cut off or kill.
Mm-hmm.
You have to decide to cut off or kill good things. It's like a tree that has too many branches and it's growing wild. And what does the guy do? He cuts off.
Right.
So that the sap can go to the few things.
Yeah. Well, that pruning. Gardening example is something like the tendency of life is to increase clutter, increase expenses, increase contact, relationship, entanglements, commitments. And then periodically, if you're wise, you'll come back and you'll prune, you'll reorganize, you'll toss out, and so you'll have time. There's still only 24 hours in the day. So it's allows you to have more space for the things that matter more to you.
That's it.
But it's a discipline that you learn. You either get overwhelmed, the tyranny of the urgent, putting out fires all the time, or you take control of your life and you say, we're going to put up some boundaries. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. And, you don't make yourself open to everybody. This whole thing is...
That's true.
It's like the open door policy, and I always have an open door. Yeah, you're an idiot. Past a certain point where any dumbbell can walk in and
interrupt your genius.
Interrupt, whatever you got going on because they've got a question or they've got an idea. And so, they're shutting down hundreds of things you already had in process or whatever but if the door's open, there's no reason for them not to go in. So anyway, I'm sure there's time to have an open door policy, but it's great as a theory. It's better as a theory.
I'm with you. Listen, if people want to see what my commitments are, get this, Larry, I have such accountability. If you go to KaryOberbrunner.com/opus, OPUS, I'll tell you what that means. Opus is the Latin word for work. There's two words. One is labor, which means toil. The other one is opus. It means masterpiece. Opus is a term that my coach created. It stands for overarching vision. O, P is purpose, U is unifying strategy, and S is scorecard for significance. If you go to karyoberbrunner.com/opus, that is my yes. So everything else in life is already a no. See, that's the opposite. Most people say everything in life is a yes.
Yeah.
And that's their predisposition. And people say, well, aren't you really limiting yourself? No, there's freedom. I use this. I'll tell you this, Larry. When I decided that my wife was the right one and she decided I was the right one, it wasn't limiting. It was freeing.
Yeah, right.
Because I said what my yes was, who my yes was. Before I would go into a party and I would be like, is she the one? Is she the one? Is she the one? Is she the one? It's confusion.
Right. Tell me about blockchain life.
Yeah.
Why you came up with that and what's happening there?
Yeah. No, I know we got a few minutes left here, so I'll share it pretty quick. But remember, I'm a publisher. And I started realizing, you know what? I publish intellectual property. I mean, that's what books are. Books are intellectual property.
Yeah.
According to the S&P 500, the 500 most valuable businesses and brands. In 1975, a year before I was born, the intangible assets out of the S&P 500 was 17%. So 17% of all the assets in the most valuable brands were intangible, meaning IP, trademarks, patents, you name it.
Intellectual property.
Intellectual property. Yeah. That means 83% was land, cash, inventory, buildings. Yeah. Guess what? Today, in 2020, I know we're way past 2020, but in 2020, it flipped to 90%.
Really?
90% of the S&P 500 is intangible, meaning my iPhone that I'm holding, it's not the plastic, the metal that makes it valuable. It's the fact that Apple has created trade secrets and trademarks and patents all around the IP. Well, guess what I started saying? If that's true, then protecting IP is one of the most important things in today's economy.
Yeah.
And then I started to realize, oh my gosh, a patent is the slower way.
Yeah.
A patent costs $20,000, has an 88.6% first-time rejection rate.
Yeah.
And takes 1 to 3 years. Well, I started hearing blockchain and I said, oh my gosh, we can protect that IP in an NFT, which is a smart contract. And we can prove that we were the first to file. And we can do that. We can do that in 24 hours for $100.
You put it into an NFT.
We put it into an NFT. So now on the back of all my books, I'm showing you right now, I'll read it to your people. It says powered by Easy IP. So now when people scan that barcode, it takes them right to the blockchain and it says Larry was the first one to file that. Here's the date, here's the time, and it's distributed on computers all over the world. And we've developed this technology. It's called easyip.today. And there is a time to get a patent. The time is that when you are going to sell your company.
Yeah.
And a patent is still valuable because it's the nuclear weapon. It's the 20-year monopoly on something.
Right.
So guess what I did? I took Easy IP and you bet I turned it into a patent and it's patent pending right now. And we are literally disrupting the intellectual property world. In fact, I think I might have told you this, but I just testified before a Congress commissioned panel with the USPTO, United States Patent and Trademark Office, about how Easy IP is disrupting in a good way.
Yeah.
It's like Uber. Uber is better, cheaper, faster, easier.
Yeah.
Easy IP is better, cheaper, faster, easier. Now, again, you still can have a patent. I'm not saying that it's, for everyone, but I'm saying, guess what, Larry? I trademarked the word pre-patent. This is a pre-patent that will actually help you prove to the world that you are the first to file.
Wow. Congratulations.
Well,
you're actually
it took a lot of time and money. It really did. It took a lot of
theological brainiac. All of a sudden here you came up with.
Listen, man, I just like to learn and grow and fail. And
that's the best reason to use NFTs that I've heard.
Yes.
And also the blockchain, that legitimizes the whole concept, really.
We put, and this is the key word, like you just said, we put utility
right
around that.
Yeah, because right now it's like you get on the computer, I could literally have thousands of little images put together on Photoshop by the end of the day. Yeah, I've got a nephew who's a minor, and he could put them in the block, in there, and I've got all these NFTs, but like, why? Exactly. Yeah. What does that mean? Here's an NFT that amounts to something, and you were going to say something.
Oh, you're onto it, man. Here's quick examples, really quick. Universities are giving now, smart ones, here's your paper diploma. Here's your NFT. Why? Because LinkedIn allows you to integrate your digital asset.
Wow.
So that when you look and somebody says, oh, I went to Harvard, and you're like, really? You can now click it and it pops up and it says verified by the blockchain.
This is the worst information George Santos has ever heard.
Why is that?
He was a Republican elected out of New York by just saying, I went here, I went,
okay. Now you can prove it.
Now they're hauling him before the ethics committee. But the thing is now, you're making it impossible for
bad actors, imposters, con men. Yeah.
This is fantastic. And so somebody who's out there has got a business that this is really intriguing, and I want to ask more questions. I want to get that. I have things I would like to get on that. Where do they go? Do you guys have a service?
EasyIP.today. EasyIP.today. It's got me talking before the USPTO. It's got me with the biggest law firm in the world saying, why is this different? And why might some people want this versus a lawyer? It's a whole thing, man.
Is that a do-it-yourself site, or is that do you have a do for you?
We do it for you.
We do for you. Yeah.
We do it for you.
I'm a big DFY guy.
Yeah, me too. I'll tell you what it's
for me.
I'll tell you what a good book is around that. Who Not How. My mentor, Dan Sullivan.
Yeah.
He basically says, do you want to be the who? Because I'll tell you what, Larry, the bad entrepreneur says, I'll just do it all. Yeah. I'm come from the Midwest where you do everything yourself. Well, that's dumb.
Yeah. Well, a lot of this stuff has been conceptually around for a long time. The idea of intellectual property and everything.
Yeah.
I remember at least 30 years ago, hearing that, you want to go see Heinz Ketchup, where the big Heinz Ketchup factory. Okay. Well, there is no such thing as a Heinz Ketchup factory. The Heinz Ketchup, some offices in a building on one end of a floor of an office building in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
What they have is the formula and the recipe, and they farmed it. Now, this is 30 years ago. They had 31 plants around the country that they had gone in and said, if you meet these criteria, boom, 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 we'll, buy so many bottles of ketchup from you. It's the same how Coke does it, And
it is true.
And
it's what Mr. Beast is doing, a guy who's a YouTube influencer with his Mr. Beast burger. Exactly what you said. He came up with a recipe and then went to restaurants and said, if you carry this,
Yeah.
I will send you so much traffic, you will blow up. And guess what? He did it.
Yeah. There's a barbecue place down the street from me where they have their own burgers, but then they have the smash burgers. So they got two, and so they have bought that. Say it's like a Mr. Beast type thing. But
yes,
they're side by side, whichever one you want. So
that's crazy.
So this is happening. It's a matter if you want to get in the game, folks. You probably got a bunch of questions jumping up in your head that you need to get answers to. And follow up and go to easyip.today.
Yep.
Well, thanks for getting on. This has been a lot of fun. Look forward to doing it again. Do you have a final thing you want to pass on before we go?
I'll tell you what, it's a quote that blew my mind. My mentor said to me, Kary, what's the most damaging thing in the life of a child? And I was like, man, I don't even know the answer to that. And this is Carl Jung actually came up with this in all of his research. He said it's the most damaging thing in the life of a child is the unlived life of the parent. And I was like, boom. And so, Larry, that's why I call my brand Igniting Souls. Yeah. I believe when you are a soul on fire, there's a guy named Saint Irenaeus who said that the glory of God is a man or woman fully alive.
Yeah.
And that's what the world needs. The world needs souls on fire. And so I do that through intellectual property, publishing it, promoting it, and protecting it.
Absolutely fantastic. Again, wish we could keep on going, but we've got a hard stop here. Thanks so much for being around. We will look forward to doing this again in the future.
Thank you, Larry. You are an amazing host. Take care.
Thanks so much.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Million Dollar Mastermind. If you felt there were any valuable takeaways from this episode, please take a minute and leave us a 5-star review. Your feedback is important and really helps us get the word out to a wider audience. Remember, we have a valuable webinar that is absolutely free. Register for it right now at weidelonwinning.com. Thanks for listening.